Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back to your next writing lesson. My name is Mrs. Wade, and today I have a challenge for you. I would like you to, in a moment when I get done explaining what to do, pause this video and read these two paragraphs and see if you can spot every difference between these two paragraphs. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and see if you can spot the differences. The only difference between these two paragraphs is the second one has these few words that I bolded here. First of all, additionally, and last but not least. That was the only difference between those two paragraphs. I hope you were able to find them. These bolded words that I have here are called transition words, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about transition words, and we're going to practice using them. To help get your mind going on transition words, I'm going to write a few down below on my Google Docs here so that you can see some examples of transition words. As you can see right here, and if you need to look a little bit longer, you're always welcome to pause the video to look longer. But as you can see here, we have some transition words. Now, I put them in groups. This first group right here is kind of like a beginning group. So when you're first starting to use transition words, you're probably going to be using this group of transition words. We have first, one example, at first, one way, second, next, then, another, after that, secondly, last, finally, third, a final, and the final. Okay, so you've probably heard of some of those words, I'm guessing, and those are pretty basic transition words. When you get to be a little better at writing and you're more comfortable using transition words, you might use this second group here, because this is for more advanced transition word users. We have to begin with, at first, first of all, to start it off, in the beginning, initially, in the first place, after that, another way, one other, following that, in addition, second of all, along with, another important, following this, a final way, in the end, last but not least, the last example, and lastly. So as you can see, you can still see part of my paragraph from up above, and bolded here is last but not least. So the author of this paragraph decided to use a more advanced transition word. And when you get really good at writing transition words, you might use words such as primarily, one significant, first and foremost, above all, in the meantime, in addition to, likewise, moreover, equally important, furthermore, similarly, as a result, accordingly, consequently, the most important, undoubtedly, ultimately, the most important, eventually, and without question. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to be practicing using these transition words by adding them into our plans. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and I'm going to find my McDonald's plan that I created, copy it and paste it to today's journal entry. Remember, to copy and paste something, one way to do it would be to click before the text that you want to copy with one finger, and then with your other finger, you're going to drag your cursor across everything that you want to copy so that it highlights it all. Once it's highlighted, you can let go. Then I click Control and hold it while I touch the letter C. And when that happens, my computer knows I am copying this. Then I can go back down to the bottom, and when I hit Control V, it pastes everything that I had copied into this new spot that I just clicked. So what exactly are we going to be doing today? All we're doing is we're going to be coming up with transition words that we like and that we want to use in our plans. You may be asking yourself, when do I use transition words? Do I use a transition word for every sentence? Absolutely not. Do I use a transition word to start off my essay? Probably not. You're going to start off your essay with those topic sentences that we've been working on for the past 2 days. Transition words are going to be used when we introduce a new big idea. This will help our reader with understanding when we're going from one big idea to the next big idea to the last big idea. But we do not use transition words in our interesting details. So if I'm looking at my plan here that I have for McDonald's, I have our 3 big ideas here: food, dessert, and service. And then remember, on the right side, we have all of our details. We do not put transition words with our details. We only put transition words to start off our big ideas. So if we don't start our essay with a transition word, where does my first transition word go? If you said my first transition word should go before my first big idea, you would be correct. Great job paying attention. So I'm going to click into my first big idea box labeled food, and I'm going to enter that down a few times just so that I can type my transition word before my big idea. That will help me remember that I need a transition before I start writing about this big idea. Now I could use the word first because it's the first big idea I'm going to be talking about, but I want to sound really smart, so I'm going to choose a better transition word. Since we're in the 3rd grade now, we should stay away from the transition words such as first and second and third. We're going to leave those to the 1st and 2nd graders. So take a moment to brainstorm a list of transition words that can be used for the first big idea. A transition word or phrase that I really like to start off my first big idea is going to be to begin with. That tells my reader, this is the first one, and even though I didn't say the word first, because that's a little boring, my reader still knows that this is where we are starting. So I just typed in the words to begin with, and notice I put a comma, because if you noticed in our paragraph up here, there was a comma after every single transition word or phrase, and that is the proper use of commas. You need to put commas after your transition words or phrases. Now, where should my next transition word or phrase go? If you said the details, you would be incorrect. Remember, we do not put transition words with our details over here, even though that's really what we would be writing about next, but we don't use transition words for this because these all go with this big idea, and we want all of this to kind of fit together. So we're not going to transition into a new topic until we get to what? Our next big idea. Yes, and that, in my case, is dessert. So our next big idea is dessert. I'm going to click before it, enter down a few times so that I can write a new transition phrase or word up above. So then when I go to write my essay, I remember to put those transition words in there. Now again, this is my second big idea, so I could simply say second or secondly, but that just seems a little boring to me. And remember, we're going to leave those more basic transition words to the 1st and 2nd graders. The transition phrase that I like and would like to use second is in addition. So if I say in addition, that tells me that we've already talked about something, and now there's something else that I'm going to talk about as to why McDonald's is my favorite restaurant. Okay, so I'm just going to, again, type in addition in here, and I'm going to put in parentheses, and I'm going to put my comma in there so that I remember when I go to use my plan for my essay writing, I remember to put my comma in there. Now, where does my next transition word or phrase go? Again, remember, we don't put transition words or phrases with our details. Nope. They are connected to my big idea, so they don't need a transition. But if we're done talking about dessert, we do need a transition to let the reader know that we're going to be talking about something differently. So if you said our next transition word or phrase needs to go before our 3rd big idea, you would be absolutely right. So I'm going to go before service and click enter a few times because service is my 3rd big idea. Then I'm going to come up with my last transition word that we will need. Now, I could say third, because this is my 3rd big idea, or I could say last, but again, those 2 words, if we look back up here, we have third right here, and we have last right here. So those fall into the really basic transition words that we should kind of steer clear from. So if you can use transition words that fall into this paragraph or to this paragraph, those would be much better to use. The transition phrase that I want to use for the last big idea is last but not least. This tells my reader that this is the last thing I'm going to be talking about why McDonald's is my favorite restaurant. And it also tells my reader that it's not necessarily the thing I like the least. I didn't necessarily write these in the order in which I like them. I just brainstormed them. So saying it's last but not least means that just because it's last doesn't mean it's not important too. Are we done coming up with transition words or phrases for my plan? Yes. All we need transition words or phrases for are for the big ideas. And we only have 3 big ideas, and I've come up with 3 transition phrases already, so we are done writing transition phrases for this plan. Now, I would like to say this. Most of the time when you write transition words or phrases, those transition words or phrases are going to come at the beginning of your sentence, and that is perfectly fine. But as you get to be a more advanced writer, you may figure out a way how to add in those transition words to the middle of your sentence. But don't worry about that for now. We'll just focus on writing transition words at the beginning of our sentences. Here's what you're going to do today for your assignment. You are going to copy and paste 3 of the plans that you created. I don't care what plans they are. Just 3 of the plans that you've created that look like this with your big ideas boards and your details over here and your topic at the top. And you're going to copy and paste them into today's journal entry, and make sure you date today's journal entry with the month, the day, and the year. Once you've copied those 3 plans under today's entry, you are going to then practice writing transition words or phrases. So just like I did here, I entered down my big ideas so that I could write my transition word or phrase before my big idea, because your transition word or phrase is going to come before your big idea. And remember, we do not need transition words or phrases for our details, just our big ideas. So you are going to come up with 3 transition words for each of those 3 plans, which means you're going to have to come up with 9 transition words. Remember, it's important which transition words you put where, because if I wanted to put last but not least on my first big idea, does that make sense? No, that would tell my reader that this is the last thing I'm going to be talking about, but it's not. So make sure you choose transition words that fit with where it falls in your writing. If it's the first big idea you're going to be talking about, make sure you have a transition word or phrase that deals with being at the beginning or first. When you come to your second big idea, make sure you find a transition word or phrase that deals with something in the middle. And when you go to your last big idea, you're going to come up with a transition word or phrase that deals with the last big idea. As you work on your assignment, feel free to pause this video. I'm going to scroll up to the transition words again. Feel free to pause this video on this screen and leave it up as you're working on your assignment so that you can see the different types of transition words. You're more than welcome to use any transition word or phrase that is not on this list but still makes sense in your writing as well. One more thing before I let you go. I would like you to practice writing your transition words differently. So for your first plan, if you're going to use first of all in your first plan for your first big idea, don't use first of all for the first big idea of your second plan, since you've already used it for the first big idea of your first plan. So try to use 9 different transition words or phrases throughout all 3 plans. Good luck, have fun, and get creative.